Team, guys, it's not Sunday. We're not talking about bacon, but I'm glad you're here. So, quick update. Any of you that have been following me and my channel know that I love bacon, but we're not talking about bacon today. If you happen to, check in when I was talking about my experience with the Carolina Panthers, you're going to know that I reached out to them. I stretched myself. I went for it. I said, hey, I'm going to work for you guys. I want to help you with your mentoring your rookies, your potential retirees. Look, I get a great passion out to do that. I do it for free now because there's a lot of people don't know how to find jobs. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know how to, go on interviews and things like that. So I was like, all right, look, I love football. I'm going to go for it. You know the story. If you don't, go look at the video I did. So anyway, I log into my Gmail account. I see an email from my contact. I'm going to leave him anonymous just because it is what it is, and I respect him for that. And, he was very respectful and said, hey, look, after, reviewing your presentation and even after, speaking with my boss, I got every reason to believe that he did share with his boss. It's not something we're going to do. And, we appreciate your information. We appreciate you reaching out. You know the story. So, after kind of swallowing that barbed wire pill and being like, damn it, this stinks. I sort of shook it off, and I realized real quickly that, during that process of kind of, trying to do something different, or maybe getting out of my comfort zone, or stretching myself, or, just kind of going for it, I realized that I learned a lot about just not only myself during the process. And I think, even though it was a no, and no sucks, look, you could do a couple different things. You could sit here at your desk and you could cry and whine all day about why you didn't get the job and why you're a loser. I mean, you could technically do that. And you know what? As a matter of fact, if you need to do that, go ahead and do it. And if you need to do it for a long period of time, then I just feel sorry for you because you don't need to do that, right? Most people don't get up to the plate. So, dude, quitting is easy. It is. You don't have to do anything. I'm just not going to do it. I'm a quitter. Who says that? Hey, you know what? I grew up on being a quitter. I'm just not going to do anything. I'm going to choose not to do anything and not work at all. So anyone that I know isn't like that. Anyone that's watching this probably isn't like that. But anyone who's watching this is probably saying to yourself, hey man, I've gone through a similar experience like that and it sucks. And you know what it does? But if you punch through the other side and you look past the no, I realized that in the process of doing that, I was really experiencing, life in a way that I hadn't experienced before. I was out of my comfort zone. I was getting asked to do specific tasks that I wasn't accustomed to doing. I was learning more about myself. I was stretching. I was alive. You know what I mean? Like, I was, hey, this could happen. Check this out. Kind of going through the process. Everything's a process, right? You can quit at any time. That's what quitters do. But this is a process. And my process with the Carolina Panthers ended yesterday, okay? It's just, that's how it worked out. But if I look back on it, I get in a conversation with someone who said, I don't know if I'm going to stretch myself. I don't know if I'm going to go for it. Now I have an opportunity to share with them, well, look what happens when you do go for it. I'm a different guy because of that experience. I just am. You know what I mean? And that's what this deal is all about. My wife, as many of you know, the general, she's going back to work. Today's her first day of work at Mooresville Grading. And, she's kind of excited. And anyway, not to belabor the point, but, she uses her classroom, as most teachers do, as a, blackboard or a white canvas for inspiring her students how to learn. You know what I mean? So, birthdays and, ABCs and welcome. And so one of the things that she's doing, which I think is really interesting, is she's kind of creating this quote board or an area in a room where there's going to be all these inspiring quotes. And so one of the random quotes that she has was from Wayne Gretzky. Check it out. Here's the quote. It says, you miss 100% of the shots you never make or never take. So what that mean? You're never going to score the goal if you don't take the goddamn shot. So with the Carolina Panthers, I got up to plate and I swung for the home run. I swung. That's what this is about. It's about getting up to the plate and it's about swinging. It's about getting up taking a slap shot. It's about getting up and making the 3-point shot. And even missing it. You know what? You wouldn't have known unless you'd taken a shot. Right? So one thing I know for sure, because I'm going to share with you now so I hear myself say it to you, is that I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. And you know what? Either are you. Take the shot.